Orphan 55 quickly became one of the most universally hated episodes in all of Doctor Who, with fans lampooning it for its bad acting, annoying characters and bad cinematography, and awful writing, and aliens that were clearly ripped right out of Love and Monsters. Orphan 55 was seen as the worst episode in the revival straight after release, and one of the most disappointing for sure. And the writer for this episode was Ed Heim, someone who people had hope in for some reason. And knowing he's coming back next series is just... oh, fuck me, Chibnall, why? But, do I agree with all of the criticism that Orphan 55 gets? Maybe Orphan 55 was a hidden gem overlooked by many fans and is secretly brilliant. As if! Let's start this shit show. This episode has one of the most abrupt starts I've ever seen. Less than 5 minutes in, we're already thrown in a scenario we don't know enough about, and we're introduced to this furry character who's introduced with a joke extremely similar to Series 1's Bad Wolf.
I wouldn't get in the way.
I wouldn't mind if you did. Not a bad idea, Linda with a Y.
And party of 4? And Dozy Harold coupons. I'm hyphen with a 3.
But seriously, who fucking designed this character? She looks terrible! Oh, and just another note to add, for the first time in the entire Chibnall era, Graham is really annoying.
I'm gonna get up, sit somewhere else, then contact the all-inclusive doc. Gotta get your coupons worth, get in!
I didn't think it was possible to make the most likeable person in the TARDIS right now annoying. And when I say most likeable, I mean the only likeable one. But somehow Edward Heim has found a way to make Bradley Walsh annoying. When I said earlier we were thrown in a scenario we barely know anything about, I really wasn't being hyperbolic. Not even 3 minutes into this shit, the danger starts within the security room. You need to at least establish what normal life is like in this place before building a threat, and let us explore a bit first. And this is coming from someone with an extremely shoddy attention span. Seriously, I get distracted by every single tiny thing, but I can manage to keep my attention through on Doctor Who. Unless this episode was directly made for stupid children, we don't need a hook this early. Sometimes in classic Who, you don't even get a hook until the end of the first part of an episode, which could be about 25 minutes. So why the beginning of this episode is so rushed is a mystery to me. The rip-off hikes are getting into the facility and Ryan gets the coronavirus in less than 5 fucking minutes. Ryan getting the corona was so poorly done as well, like, why is the virus visible? Does Ed Heim know what science is? And as someone who failed computing, I know that viruses aren't meant to be visible. And why didn't we see its effect on the teleport, and why can't the people just go through it anyway? It's not even stated whether the teleport was infected, or the people were infected. It's just said that it is infected and is taken as a fact. No explanation, no nothing. Then the Doctor begins harassing these boring characters with questions she'll never get the answer to. She asks the sort of questions that would arise in the viewer's head when they're watching the episodes, and the episodes themselves are supposed to answer them. The best episodes of Doctor Who are the ones where the Doctor has no clue what's going on or what something is. Take for example the greatest story of all time, The End of Time. In The End of Time Part 1, it is revealed that the knocking in the Master's head isn't just his insanity, and it is real, and neither of them know what it is. 2 Time Lords, some of the smartest beings ever, don't know what the noise is, and it makes the Master go further into insanity and relief, and it makes the Doctor more scared.
What? I heard. What is it? What's inside your head?
It's real. It's real.
It's real!
The problem with 13 is that she knows what's going on but constantly acts like she doesn't, never once being challenged about her beliefs. So compelling character moments will never exist, and we can say bye to brilliant moments like this.
Funny thing, Mr. Lux, I don't want to see everyone in this room dead because some idiot thinks his pride is more important.
Then why don't you sign his contract?
Ryan also is just unlikable and annoying in this episode. He straight up lies to this girl that he's just met, pretending he's a pilot or something. She firstly claims to be a hotel critic, and this in itself has potential to be funny, but then it turns out she's just as bad as Ryan, and instead she's just an unemployed blank slate whose mum is in charge of security. What? Yaz, as usual, was completely pointless in this episode, just like Graham. Like seriously, what did she even do? Apart from cockblock our boy Benny. Then we are introduced to James Buckley with green hair for some reason. This was one of the only things I was looking forward to in this episode because I knew that James was in the hit show The In-Betweeners, that I'd never seen at the time, but I'd heard it was funny. And after seeing the Orphan 55 trailer, I thought, okay, this looks shit, but at least it could be funny. But nope! This is a tragic miscast. He doesn't do anything. He's not memorable, he's not funny. Why does he have green hair? Before I continue this review, I've got to ask, why? Why would you get James Buckley into Doctor Who and give him nothing to do? Seriously, you get the funniest in-betweener and you give him no material to work with. And I know he's the funniest in-betweener because I watched that whole show in preparation for this review, just to make sure that my statement in this Spyfall Part 2 review would be accurate. And it was. Move over, Lenny Henry. James Buckley is now the biggest waste of talent in Doctor Who. Back to the episode, he starts off by talking to his awful child actor son, who it seems like he just met. And then the two of them just become tag-alongs. They don't do anything, they are just there. The monster design in this episode is one of the extremely few not awful things in this episode, even though they are a complete rip-off of the Hoik. But how they are used is the biggest problem. Every time we see them, they are shot almost every time separate from the characters. It creates such a dissever with the performances that it's hard to believe the creatures are even there. The Doctor then continues to alienate the audience by blabbering on about iconic membranes or some shit. I meant to just say ionic, but iconic sounded funny, so I kept it in. She's somehow figured out that certain types of DNA are approved and not approved for this giant shockwave she's gonna create. And she's basically gonna save the day in 13 minutes, so everything that has taken place up till now could have been expanded upon into a full-length episode. What the fuck? Also, a wave that can kill certain types of DNA but not others? Sounds awfully familiar to Part in Other Ways if I do say so myself. Which I do, because it's a complete rip-off. Also, they used the hacking excuse again for this whole thing. Sorry, didn't you just use this 2 weeks ago in Spyfall Part 1?
We were trying to bring you here, not kill you, but our systems got hacked.
This security officer called Kane packs all of the remaining survivors into a vehicle that looks like shit. I'd have thought just holding out of the hotel would be a much better idea for survival, but nope! Let's just drag random people into a dreg swamp instead.
It fucking makes a whole lot of sense to me.
The car then gets stopped by a dreg trap. I'm not even gonna question it. Which means they then all run out of the vehicle, just to get back into it. How is the tension meant to be kept up if all the decisions are so retarded? That would be like if in the end of time where the Doctor goes to save Wilf, if he just broke the machine and let all the radiation flood out instead of absorbing it and saving the world. And on the topic of stupid, the character of Vilma, who constantly shouts "Benny!" throughout this episode. And despite her very short on-screen time, she probably has the most lasting impact. Because she is so fucking annoying. Oh, and to be precise, she says the word Benny 18 times in this episode.
Son!
On the topic of Benny, he's talking to Vilma from outside and I genuinely don't know what's supposed to be happening here. Is he just being held by a dreg, like next to the vehicle so he can talk to her? I don't see why the dregs are so generous. The escape from the vehicle is terrible as well. It starts off with the Hoyts, I mean dreg, ripping off the roof. And then everybody yeets out of the car except for the furry, which I don't know how none of them notice. When the Doctor gets out of the vehicle, she runs to meet with everyone else and the fat fuck is still inside? What the fuck was she doing in there for so long? Oh, and then they just cut to this abysmal shot of the monster, like, it's so shit, look at it! The whole thing becomes an even bigger joke when they all go underground. Kane admits to killing Benny and then everyone's reactions are so absurdly stupid, it's unfathomable. Benny literally asks to be killed, but everyone has a go at Kane for it.
What was the other one?
If anyone can, will they please shoot me?
Don't worry, I killed him.
Oh, what did she just say?
What, Benny?
What is wrong with you?
Like, what the fuck is even happening in this episode? That's like if in the Satan Pit, when Zack kills Mr. Jefferson, everyone started giving Zack shit for it, despite the fact that Mr. Jefferson asked to be killed. But instead, in the Satan Pit, everyone was quiet and respectful, to honour Mr. Jefferson. Since, let's be real, even Mr. Jefferson says it, it's nicer to be killed by lack of oxygen than death by ood, or in this case, death by dreg. And the attempt of a twist that Bella is Kane's daughter is so terrible. They are so obviously not related that it becomes painful to watch them act as if they are. The only thing they have in common is their extreme love for violence. Then we get another fantastic twist when it's revealed to us we've been on Earth the whole time. This could have been done in such a more interesting way, and it's okay that the sign's in Russian because the TARDIS isn't here. But wait, doesn't that mean that everyone else here, including the furry and the Jacksepticeye clones, all speak English? Bit odd, but at this point I can't even be asked to whine about it. Everyone then arrives back at the hotel, which... what was even the point of going out there? Then we get more exposition on how the Earth became Orphan 55. It just wasn't necessary. The message of this episode boiled down is that we should feel bad and regret for all the damage we've done to the planet. As if we aren't doing our fucking best to try and help that right now. And while this is happening, our protagonists are pushing a vent into a wall. And after that, so much fucking shit is flung into our faces, I might as well have shoved my face down a toilet. The oxygen can beat the dregs. Shit. Yaz just yanks a random cable from the wall. Shit. This random dreg is meant to be the Alpha, but just looks the same as the rest of them. Shit. Oh, and not to mention the scene where the dreg gets put into the cage. And now everything just blows up for inconspicuous reasons, and it's still not over. Kane is back to kill the dreg, and the random insane woman snogs Ryan. And even if you were hoping to see some good action, we get teleported back to the TARDIS anyway. But what? The Doctor doesn't even go back to save the people they just ditched. And in the brilliant Praxeus, we see that the Doctor can still do that, making this moment all the worse. And this just makes Adric's death in Earthshock all the less impactful, because we now just ask, why didn't the Doctor just save him? But that's Praxeus, we'll get to that another day, unfortunately. Then we get the Doctor giving a speech which is just so goddamn preachy, and it shits on everything this show's set up. For the last 15 years, it is very clearly established in many episodes of the revival that time is fixed, you can't change the future, and when you do, things go to shit considerably. You can only change things very slightly. You can't change something as absolutely massive as this. In this complete alternate universe, as it's clearly shown in the Series 2 Cyberman 2-parter, that you can't travel from parallel world to parallel world intentionally since the downfall of Gallifrey. And I highly doubt the walls of reality are falling down. Which, when you consider the Timeless Children, they could have set something up like that, but nope. So what happened to the pre-established future for the human race? What happened to the fourth great and bountiful human empire? Has Gerbil actually hired any writers who's seen this fucking show before? What an absolute fucking mess. Who could actually write something as shit as this? In conclusion, Orphan 55 not only fucking sucks, but it is genuinely one of the worst episodes in the show's history. The characters, acting, direction, editing, cinematography, and most importantly, the writing for this episode all fucking sucks. Seriously, how did you even get this bad? And to think, this isn't even the worst episode of Series 12. Fuck me. This episode just proves that Edward Heim III is a bad writer for Doctor Who. And yet, he's being brought back next series. Fucking kill me. This episode has now reached meme status with how bad it is. It's so fundamentally broken in every possible way imaginable, it's impressive. With Spyfall Part 1 and 2, there's at least some good things in them. Lenny Henry in particular is the only one who gives a good performance. Orphan 55 is one of the worst episodes of Doctor Who ever created. It's up there with Love and Monsters on meme capability. Surely Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror isn't this bad, right? Well, let's find out.
Don't forget to click below and subscribe to the official TARDIS Team YouTube channel.